Hi, I'm Greg. Welcome to Affect Studio. I'm here to talk about the second most important part of any profiling session with the Kemper, which is the refining process. Now, this video doesn't apply to the Quad Cortex for the simple reason that the Quad Cortex doesn't have a refining process or refining options. Does it need it? Well, not really. It definitely gets closer to the original sound straight off without any refining. Would I like it? Yes, I would. There are definitely some parameters that you can control in the Kemper that the Quad Cortex could really benefit from, where you can get in and adjust some of this, basically the way the attack works, the distortions, etc. Now, I know for a lot of people, not having that is going to make the Quad Cortex way more attractive. I've been profiling my rebuilt 1965 Vox AC10 amp, and I have, having set up mics in the previous video, I have now hit profile and made the profile, but not done any refining. I have the profile remote down at my feet, so if you see me looking down there, it's not that my feet are fascinating, it's just that I need to line up my toes occasionally to make sure I'm hitting the right button. So this is the sound that we set up earlier, slightly different gain levels for this one, but unrefined. Just this is the sound coming from the amp through the console, through the mics into the console, into the Kemper. Deliberately gone for a slightly rougher, pretty gritty sort of sound, just because I really want to, highlight the difference that the refining makes. That seems to be more obvious with a sort of crunchy sound like this. Alright, so now this is the profile that the Kemper has just made. Back to the original. And now the profile. So as you can hear, there's quite the difference. The Kemper doesn't sound bad, but compared to the original, it's just sort of flat. It's darker, doesn't have the sparkle of the Vox, all that crunch. It's just all been sort of smoothed out and a bit dull. So now we come to the actual refining. Now, Kemper tell you what they're doing is measuring the intermodulation distortion and also the attack of the notes. So they'd say to play some big chords and to, attack it pretty hard. I have a theory that if I'm playing something dissonant, it may make it work even harder to get rid of anything that's ugly. I don't know if it actually works, but it's worth a shot. And also, I try to hit the strings really hard, a lot harder than I normally use. So I find big sweeping chords like sometimes even just going. It just seems to actually give me more satisfying results when I'm doing that. And so I really hit the guitar. I broke a string recently doing this, which I haven't done in years. I used to break a lot of strings when I was younger. I once broke 13 strings in one night between 3 sets, but that's a different story. So that's what I do. So you can use the foot controller, which is what I normally do, or you can hit the front panel of the unit to get into the refining. So for now, I'm just going to hit the front panel. There's a refine button here, and then there you go, exciting stuff. You want to probably keep that for, for memories. But that's not what's important. The important thing is it's the way you're attacking it. It's getting the fullness of the guitar. And of course, then you hit finish, which I forgot to do almost. The thing I do now is use the remote where you can actually, unlike the controller where you need to press the button to flip between the reference sound and the profile. With the controller, I can hit one button, the same button, and so I just sit there and hit it, and try not to pay attention to how many times I've done it, so that I'm not sure what I'm listening to, and then just see how they sound, how that compares. So here's the first one. And here's the second one. Back to the original. The other one. So straight away you can hear the difference that's made to the sound. Like, they are very close to indistinguishable. There is a difference, no question. Whether one's better or worse, I'm not sure I could say at this point. Swapping back. Swapping back. So my guess is that's actually the Kemper. Yep, I am correct. It just seems to be slightly darker, not a lot, just a little bit, and doesn't quite the same air that the original one has, but it's pretty close, and I'm pretty happy with the sound. So having done that, I'm now going over to Rig Manager. Rig Manager is free software that Kemper include, that you download from their site, which now everything that is in Rig Manager you can do on the unit. All the controls are all there, but I find it much easier to use Rig Manager, particularly when I'm typing in names and all the extra information. One of the great things with Rig Manager is that they have, a place to type in not only the name of what you're doing when you're saving it, but the mics used, speakers. I can type in the volume and tone settings, etc., so you can look back and see what you've done. Like later on when you're going, wow, what's that great sound? What have I done? It's all there, and it's much easier doing that. Whereas the Quad Cortex, sadly, at this point, all you have is a place to type in the name and a few comments, and also, quite annoyingly, I'm finding, because I'm profiling my entire collection of amps to make them available, and I'm doing multiple profiles of every amp. So you've got clean, different clean, bit of dirt, etc., just going on. I've got to type in the name every single time on the touch screen, whereas with the Kemper I can just go in there and change I can change it to say crunch 1 to crunch 2, and all I have to do is change the number, and I can go in where I've written volume and I can just change the volume setting. What I've written, I can say, it's 4, now it's on 5, and that's all I've got to change. Everything else will stay as it was, which is so much easier. Anyway, my rant over. So I go into Rig Manager, and what I normally do, I find I like a bit of power sagging. So power sagging is what happens when you hit the amp hard and the voltage drops slightly. You get this particularly with smaller amps with valve rectifiers, or older amps like the Tweed Fenders that had valve rectifiers. The rectifier is just the part of the amp that converts the AC from the wall to DC for the amp, and also it's the filter capacitors and things as part of the power supply, depending on how big they are, depending on how much the voltage will sag when you hit it hard. Anyway, I quite like that. It gives you a bit of compression. I was going to say natural compression. It's not natural, is it? It's because it's an amp. But yeah, it gives you a little bit of extra compression, which I like, a bit of extra. So that's the Kemper now. This is the original. Back to the Kemper. Now, maybe rounded off too much. Now, I sometimes find a little bit of clarity is quite helpful for getting the edge of the note happening. The reference. Kemper. Okay, so that's getting closer. Tube shape is another one that I find quite helpful. We're talking the subtleties here. that of course most people aren't going to notice, but you know, it's like as a guitarist, you can feel the difference between a great amp and a, you know, and like an emulation, like when you're playing through a modeler or something where it just doesn't feel quite the same. Kemper tell you that turning a tube shape up will give you more of the response of a non-master volume like I'm using with the output stage happening. That's with it up, and here is it right down. So you can hear that it's just down, it's a bit smoother. Up, it's got a bit extra crunch. Let's go back to the reference. So yeah, anyway, and it's occasionally a bit of compression is handy. I think it's particularly designed to help when you've, you know, your playing's more dynamic. So if I play softly, except that is still on the original amp. It just and then when you open up, helps even that out, and it's different to the compressor pedal type effect or studio compression they have. So I'm not quite sure what they've done with that, but I find that's also often quite useful. So anyway, that is now our profile. That's the original. The profile. Original. So as you can hear, the difference between them now is pretty minute. I may even prefer the Kemper in this case slightly to the original, but they both sound really good. And so now, if you're happy with that, hit store and then change your name in Rig Manager if you're using that, or you know, get in here and use the controls on this to do that. But that is the refining process, and as I say, you can hear the difference. If you've forgotten, go back to the point before I hit the refine and listen to the difference, because massive difference, and as I say, I'm pretty happy with that. That sounds like my amp mic'd in the studio coming through the control room. So hopefully you found that interesting and helpful, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.